kind of feel like the setup has me like surrounded by henchwomen plants. For high school seniors this time of year, it is about the time that colleges have released their decisions and you are deciding whether or not you should pick a school or choose to go to community college or choose not to go to college at all. About 5 years ago in April of 2016, I was faced with this exact dilemma. I didn't know what to do. Anyway, 5 years later, we're here, April of 2021. I did end up going to college. I will be finishing my last year at UCLA in 2 months. That's pretty shocking. I managed to change my major twice. I have done some worldview expanding. I'm no longer as optimistic as I was when I was a senior in high school. So although my college experience wasn't exactly how I planned it out to be, I'm hoping to share a thing or two about community college and 4U University so that maybe you have a better idea of what to choose for your path. So a quick disclaimer, the experiences and opinions I'm about to share are referencing specifically colleges within the United States. I've never traveled abroad and experienced schools beyond the States, so I'm definitely not qualified to talk about those. However, I'm sure your college counselor or a quick Google search can be a great starting point for your questions. So let's begin our talk about community college. And elephant in the room, the biggest difference between community college and a 4U university is in its price tag. Going to a community college is a much more affordable option. A lot of people do not have the luxury of affording to go to a 4U university, whether it be public or private. Public schools can range around $20,000 to $30,000 to $40,000 a year in tuition, depending on whether you are in-state or out-of-state. And private universities can cost that price and even more. I know that USC, their tuition is around $60,000. So, to be honest, at some points in my college career, I had thought about selling my liver. Bet you thought I was gonna say do porn. No, I wasn't gonna do porn. I was going to sell my liver because I was like, you know, people do that and I feel like it would sell for like $10,000. I was just trying to avoid the fact that I was going to accumulate debt, and the thought of accumulating debt scares me and I didn't want to deal with that. In all seriousness, I know that finances can play a huge role in the decision-making aspect of a lot of aspiring college students. I've made a lot of friends in community college who had chosen to go down the route of a community college simply because it was a more affordable option, and to pay the full price of a 4U university just wouldn't make sense, because once you graduate from a community college and you transfer to a 4U university, when you end up getting your bachelor's or your diploma, what you have attached to your name is the name of the last institution that you attended, which would be the 4U university. So I guess all in all, you kind of get like a discounted 4U university experience. So that can be an option if finances are a concern for you and you do want to go to college. I noticed that in the US, we partake in this thing I like to call debt culture. Air quotes around that because I don't know if it's an actual term. I haven't actually researched it, but a lot of us try to purchase things that we cannot actually afford. So we end up taking out a lot of loans. So if you are as overwhelmed as I was 5 years ago in making this decision, know that community college is an option for you. It's a much more affordable way to achieve your education. Another famed benefit of community college is its ability to offer its students flexibility in schedule. So take this with a grain of salt, because right now a lot of students are experiencing online schooling, and that means that they can have a little bit more flexibility within their schedule. I'm taking online classes as well right now in my last quarter at UCLA. In my experience over this year and a half, I think, a lot of my professors record their lectures so that students who are not within the same time zone don't have to wake up at like say 3 a.m. in the morning to attend live lectures. They can just rewatch it later on. So students don't necessarily have to attend the live class session. I know people who attend classes in bed. I know people like listen to their lectures while they're in the car. So aside from this global pandemic that has changed everything that we know, aside from all that, community colleges were famed for being able to offer their students flexibility. When I went to community college, the class times ranged from 7 a.m. in the morning to about 10 p.m. at night. Some of the labs even running later than that. The reason why community colleges have this sort of wide range in class times is to accommodate the large population of students who are working adults. I have had a lot of friends who had to take on part-time jobs or full-time jobs. I've known people who have gone to school when they were parents. So as a way to accommodate all these different populations of people, the community colleges that I have known of tend to have a wider range in flexibility. So if you do decide to get a part-time job, if you decide that you want to do something on the side and, you know, be able to manage school at the same time, you will most likely be able to do so by going to a community college. So in my experience, a lot of people who go to community college don't really have a career path in mind yet. That was me. I went to community college not really knowing what my major was. I had started out thinking that I was going to be a computer science major, and then I wanted to switch to physics, and then I switched to mathematics. And it was at community college where I discovered that I wanted to pursue mathematics. A lot of students who I've met have experienced the same thing, where they're able to go to community college because they want to test different fields and see what they like. I think the environment that community colleges create for their students, it's a much more safe and much more comfortable environment to test out different fields than, say, at a university. And the main reason, again, is because of finances. At community college, it is much cheaper to take a class that maybe you will or will not like than it is to do so at a four-year university. I felt a lot more comfortable taking classes that are outside of the STEM field than I think I would have felt at a four-year university. I would have felt forced into my major. I would have felt like I had to be on track because I was spending so much money. I spent my entire first year just trying out classes that I thought I would like. I ended up taking a creative nonfiction writing class. I took a dance class. I took a sociology class. I took a lot of classes that I didn't think that I would have been able to try out at a four-year university. Of course, there are general education requirements that you have to meet at a four-year university regardless, and maybe some of them will meet these classes or some of them will cover the interests that you may have. However, it can be discouraging to try out different classes just because at a four-year university, you're paying so much. So in my experience and in the experiences of those who are close to me who've also gone to community college offers such a safe environment for you to test out different fields and different studies before you have to choose a major. So let's talk about the cons of community college. Going back to the topic of a wide variety in student population, this makes it incredibly hard to make friends at community college. Maybe it was just me because I was a 17-year-old who was really shy and I did not want to talk to strangers. I did not want to seem like I was lost any more than I was already lost. I did not want to spend more time on campus than was necessary. I never went to office hours, so my professors didn't really know who I was. I did not talk to the club leaders. I just did whatever I needed to do to look good on a resume. So the time I spent on campus was incredibly minimal. After my time on campus was done, I yeeted on home. Yeah, at community college, it was really difficult making friends, and it's not just because that I was shy and I didn't want to put myself out there. The scheduling and the way that community college is sort of set up, it really makes it hard to make friends because a lot of people have combating schedules, so right after class, they have no time to like linger around. They don't really have a dorm that they can go to where they like socialize and live together. They have their own responsibilities and they just get on with their day. So if you want to make friends at community college, it definitely is possible. I've had friends who have known literally everyone at my community college. It definitely is possible. You just have to put yourself out there. Okay, so now that we've talked about community college, let's go ahead and talk about a four-year university. It is really fucking expensive to go to college in the United States. So in my 3 years at community college, I was always working like 2 different jobs at the same time while going to school full-time, just so that I could save up to go to a four-year university and I wouldn't have to work so much throughout my experience at four-year university. But hearing how expensive four-year university versus actually paying the bills of a four-year university, big difference. However, here's a little hack, if you will, that you can use in order to negotiate your financial aid package whenever you do apply to a 4U university. If you were admitted to 2 different colleges of, say, the same tier, and by tier I mean like level of prestige, and you can gauge this a little bit better with the help of like a counselor. So yeah, you have your 2 different schools and they offer you 2 different financial aid packages. If one of them is much more generous, you could kind of persuade the other college to give you the same amount of financial aid that the other school is giving to you. It's kind of like price match at Target, but instead of like ice cream at Target, you're price matching your college financial aid package, if that makes any sense. A lot of people don't know that you could do this, but you could definitely leverage the amount of financial aid that you can receive. And this is because colleges, whenever they accept you, they want you to go to their school. They want to have a high yield of registration. A lot of seniors, whenever they get accepted, have this misconception that like, oh, I'm 1 in a million. Like, no, you are special. You were chosen. You were admitted because they want you at their school. So don't think that you can't leverage your position there. Going through the route of community college requires people to experience this liminal period during which they have to adapt. Transferring from one institution to another, some people may have to move to an entirely different city or state or country. People have to be exposed to different cultures and different kinds of people, and they have to maybe even adapt to a new learning system. When I transferred from community college to a 4U university, what I ended up having to do was switch my mindset from a semester system to a quarter system. So for a semester system, each term consists of 15 to 16 weeks of learning and then finals week. Whereas with the quarter system, it consists of 10 weeks and then finals week. So you just imagine the pacing problem that I experienced there. My first quarter at UCLA, it was spent just learning how to pick up the pace. I was so used to waiting until maybe like 6 to 7 weeks into the semester system before my first midterm or my first exam. Whereas when I went to UCLA, we were on the quarter system. Maybe about week 3, I had already had my first midterm. The pacing was kind of overwhelming, so I definitely had to adjust. So if you do end up taking the community college route, do be wary that you will have to learn how to adapt. Whereas if you choose going straight into a 4U university, you won't necessarily have to do that. You can spend your freshman and sophomore years learning how to hone your skills so that you're much better paced by the time you are a junior. And at that point, you only have to deal with your upper division classes. So continuing the topic of prestige at a 4U university, let's go ahead and talk about the reasons why 4U university might be for you. So one of the things that sets apart a university from a community college is its ability to offer its students a great network. I'm going to go as far as saying that no matter what you are studying, as long as you are determined and disciplined enough, you can definitely learn a lot of the skills on your own. So what you end up paying for at university comes down to the amount of access to people that you have. This simply means that if you are willing to put yourself out there, if you attend competitions, if you join clubs, if you go to professor talks, if you try to connect with your professor and they know some people within their field, if you go to office hours, if you connect with your TA, if you do really well in your classes, then you have access to these people because you would have already shown them that you have demonstrated skill, you have demonstrated likability, you've also demonstrated the fact that you were willing to put yourself out there and meet different people. Alright, so let's talk about the most exciting thing about university, which is, in my opinion, the socializing aspect and making friends. This is something I did not get to experience at a 4U university because when I transferred, I lived off campus and I did not dorm. So I didn't get the whole experience of making friends and going to sleep with like 2 other people inside your dorm. I just went to school and went to my apartment to study, just like I did at community college. But the general phenomena is that people have to physically move to go to university. And this isn't always the case because I've had friends who were already living nearby the university that they're attending, so they decided to commute so that they could save on rent. But generally, most people have to move to go to university. There are literally college towns that bloom out of necessity because of a presence of a university. That is fucking insane. A lot of these people are of the same age and they're developing and learning together and trying new things for the first time together. That in and of itself is pretty freaking magical because you have large populations of similarly aged people, and I know there are deviants of this age group. I know people always go back to school at different age groups, and good for you for doing that, but a large majority of students who attend university, at least in their undergraduate years, the atmosphere of a university sort of encourages this vulnerability, which in turn encourages exploration because they know that they have peers that they can experience new things with. This is the first time they're away from their parents, and that is pretty freeing and magical, and they get to do dumb things that, you know, although I did not end up experiencing this within my first 2 quarters at UCLA because I was kind of sheltered and figuring out the new learning system, and then the whole pandemic started, so then we had to move home anyway. Besides all that, this shouldn't make you shy away from the fact that you can explore at a university and be rid of your parents and do what you feel like. Okay, we've been talking a long time. If you're still on the fence about choosing between community college and university, don't be so stressed out. If there's one thing I learned in my entire experience at community college and at university, it's that college is what you make of it. I was on a Zoom call the other day with a research advisor of mine, and I was asking him, you know, whether I should be concerned that I may or may not go to grad school. And he told me, you know, don't worry too much because your life after college is what you make of it. And he said it's very much the same so during college. It took me my entire college experience to find out that college isn't going to do me any favors. It is just an environment in which I can grow and I can choose whether or not I want to grow. So if you're on the fence right now, don't worry, because the environment is only half the battle. The rest of it is up to you. And if you really wanted to make friends, then you would go out there and make friends. If you really wanted to nail that internship, you definitely would. As for further comments of comfort, and I wish someone had told me in my senior year during high school, maybe even earlier than that, is that you don't have to go to college. I did not know this. My parents really wanted me to go to college. All of my relatives went to college, and by relatives I mean my cousins who were in my same generation. Everyone went to college, and it was such a norm in my family. It was so highly encouraged that I felt as though I could not get out of it. Looking back throughout my college experience, although I love my major and have learned so much through my major, there were definitely times when I had wished someone had told me, you don't have to go to college. There are other things that you can do. You can go get a job. You can join the military. You can sign up for the Navy. I don't know. You could go to culinary school and then open up a gastropub and start this food empire that you had always wanted, and then meet Gordon Ramsay, who is your idol. I don't want to speak about my college experience with a tone of regret, because I definitely don't regret going to college. I learned so much. My worldview has expanded a lot, coming from a girl who used to think that men and women were paid the same in the United States. However, I still wish that at 17, straight out of high school, I wish I had all the options open to me. So yeah, if there's one thing I hope you take away from this video, it's that the fact that you're talking about this and thinking about your next steps, I'm so proud of you, and I'm happy for you, and you should be proud of yourself and happy for yourself. And whatever you set your mind to, you got this, girl.